Hi there, my name's Aaron Short and welcome to my YouTube channel, and today I'm talking about the Seymour Duncan PowerStage amplifiers. So when I was at NAMM, I stopped by Seymour Duncan, had a great time at their booth, and they played me the quad cortex through some Seymour Duncan PowerStage amplifiers. There's several in the family, I'll show you them on the screen right now. But I was interested in the stereo versions, and they sent me the 100 stereo and the flagship 700 stereo as well. I'm really interested in the 700, and I'll tell you why later on. But first of all, why would you even want a power amp, a solid state power amp? Well, they actually have many uses. Today I'll focus on the use that I'm interested in. I really like these digital modeling products that you can get now, like I have a Kemper, a Quad Cortex, an HX Stomp, and there's many others. The great thing with these products is they're super lightweight and portable compared to your favorite tube amp. So you can take this to a venue, plug into the PA system and go. That's the most portable way to use them. You could also use in-ear monitors, so you can put it on the floor, plug in-ear monitors and just go. It's even lighter. Amazing. But there's some people like myself that have come from the world of tube amps and having guitar cabinets on stage. Even if you don't come from that world, it's a really cool thing to try out. There's something about a guitar cabinet, the way it pushes the air, the way it focuses the sound and EQs the sound, that is really nice to experience, and I really like that. So to use one of those, you have to have some kind of power amp. Now there's tube power amps, like in your tube amplifier, and there's solid state power amps. Some amplifiers do have solid state power amps, but a lot of people will use these with modeling pedals because they are flat response. So they recreate the sounds that you're putting through them very accurately. There's other reasons you might want to use a solid state power amp as well. They're very reliable, they're very repeatable, they're not affected by different power sources in different venues like tubes are. They can have other features as well, like direct outputs and EQ sections like these ones do. So the two I've got here today do operate in stereo. Let's take a close look at them and check out the features on each one. I'll give you a demo of one of them as well and tell you at the end which one I prefer. So let's check these out right now. Okay, this is the PowerStage 100 stereo. I love the look of it. As you can see, it's a decent size if you look at it compared to my hand. And it's tall, but you can put this on a pedal board. In fact, the whole point of this one is to mount it onto your pedal board, and you could then just run your regular pedals into it and use this as your clean amp and use the outputs on the back to go into the PA directly if you want to. Or you can go into the cabinet. Like I said, you're going to use these speaker outs left and right, and you go in to the inputs left and right here. Do bear in mind something that threw me at the start. If you go into the left input, you then go out of the left output. You can't go into the left input and then out of both speaker outs. They're separate. Think about these as two separate amps on the stereo versions. So you go into the left input and out of speaker left to that cab, and then in to the right, and then out of the right into another cab. Think about them as two separate power amps. So with my modeler, like the Quad Cortex, I'd go left and right out into here, and then I would go speaker cable out into two speaker cabinets. Now, why do you have these knobs on top? Well, this level control is obviously the volume. Make sure you don't clip the preamp here. It will light up red if you're clipping it. I might talk about gain staging in another video, but basically just make sure that's not going red. Bring the volume up to the level that you want, and then use the EQ. Now this EQ on this pedal is excellent. It has bass, low mid, high mid, treble, and presence, which is very useful. And these, as long as you've got them turned on, where it says power amp EQ down there, make sure that's turned on. These will only affect the cabinet if you want. Now that's great, because that means you could send a cabinet emulated signal from your Quad Cortex or your Tonex pedal to the front of house, and then when you are playing on stage, if you decide that your cabinet doesn't have enough low end, you can just bring up the bass on here. And the great thing is it will only affect that cabinet or those cabinets on stage. This is really, really cool. It's almost like having a traditional amplifier on stage with physical controls, which you don't get when using a modeler. So again, it's that kind of hybrid, that kind of link between the digital and the analog world, if you like. So for me, the answer to this one is on the tin. It sounds great, and if you're mounting it on a pedal board, that's what you would do. Mount it on the pedal board, control the volume with your foot, and you're good to go. Use the extra features as needed. And like I said, it's very versatile. It even has the balanced output to go direct to PA. But again, I would rather not use those, and I would rather use the outputs on, say, the Quad Cortex itself. But they are there if you want to use them. It's nice to have these extra features for other setups and rigs. So there is a fan in this. and I'll show you the fan noise later. And the weight of this one is only 2.89 pounds. And remember, it's 100 watts, but it's 100 watts per side. So 100 watts from the left side, 100 watts from the right side. So total 200 watts when running 2 cabinets. If your cabinet is 8 ohms, that will reduce that down in wattage. So do bear these things in mind as well. But for most rehearsals and small gigs, this should be absolutely fine. So like I said, there's several iterations and versions of that pedal format power amp. And then there's this rack mount amp. And this is heavier. It's not crazy. I'm holding it with one hand, although it's kind of hurting me a little bit. It's 6.31 pounds. But this is also stereo. And this is 700 watts per channel per side. Again, at 8 ohms, that becomes 350. But even at 350 solid state, that is equivalent to around 50 or 60 watts analog. And that's why I like this one. It's got all that headroom. I can run 1 cab and I've got plenty of headroom, or I can run 2. Now, don't blow your cabinet up. Make sure you don't run these things too loud and don't damage your ears and don't blow up your cabinet. Please bear that in mind. But I just like not having the limitations, and it's still very portable. Also, if you're in a studio or if you're traveling in a tour, you could have this rack mounted, which is really nice. So the inputs are on the front on this one. Again, 2 inputs, 2 outputs. You have to use both. You can't just go into one input and then out of both outputs. You have to think of them again as 2 separate power amps, but 350 in each. That's a lot. You've got less EQ options, unfortunately, but you do have bass, mid, treble, and the level. I think it's enough, but it'd be nice if they added on the other controls from the other unit in the future. I don't know. Maybe it makes it too complicated, but I think having those 3 is enough for me. So on the back, we've got a more obvious fan, although this fan is quieter than the other one. I'll give you a demo in a minute. And then you've got your regular power supply, which is great, the IEC cable. Again, the left output and right output XLR. You can have that cab sim on or off. So the great thing with that is you can turn the cab sim off and use IRs externally. But again, if you're using something like a modeler, then just use the built-in IRs from that modeler itself. And then this one has speak-on connectors. You can use either regular speaker cables from the inside there or the speak-on connector so it doesn't come out. This is more pro. This has more headroom. And this is my favorite, honestly, for those reasons. Also, despite being bigger and having that fan on there, this one is quieter when plugged in. I want to show you what the fans sound like in the room, just so you know. So I'll plug this into power and turn the noise gate off on my vocal microphone. Okay, I'll turn this on now and hold it by the microphone. So it's actually completely silent once it turns on. Once you start playing through it at louder volumes, it will start to make a slight whining noise, but I love it because I can turn it on, and if I'm not playing, it's silent. And if I am playing, it's a very quiet noise. So I think that's great because it is loud, it is powerful. It does have a fan. It probably needs a fan. You're going to get some noise, but it's very quiet, and I love that. Let's check out the smaller one now. So I'll do the same thing with this. Okay, so with the 100, with the pedal board size amp, there is a fan noise. It's not crazy loud, but it's there. Here's the thing, if I wanted one of these for a pedal board, I would get that one and put it on the pedal board, and it wouldn't really bother me. It'd be on the ground, I'd be playing in a band, there'd be a drummer, it'd be absolutely fine. It wouldn't bother me at all. But I love the 700. Again, it's got the headroom. It's got the clean headroom, it's got less fan noise, and yes, you can't really put it on a pedal board, but you can just stick it on top of your cabinet and away you go. And if you want to make a change during the gig, you just walk behind you and adjust the EQ on the box itself. I think it's great. That's my favorite one. So what do these sound like? I've made you wait long enough. They sound absolutely fantastic. And here's how I did my test. Again, for full disclosure, I've tried these and others in the past and didn't like them. But I think it was the quality of what I was putting through them. Nowadays, we have things like the Quad Cortex that can make incredible captures. So what I did for this experiment, and still blown my mind, to be honest with you, is I took the direct out of my Mesa Mark 7 and I made a capture in the Quad Cortex. I then plugged that into the Seymour Duncan PowerStage 700 and into the 2 Mesa cabinets that I have. I mic'd them up with a single mic and recorded it. Next, I plugged the actual amp straight into those cabinets, and both times I ran the same guitar loop through, so the playing is exactly the same each time. I then level matched them as close as I could, and I think they sound absolutely identical. I'm blown away, and If I had a gig tonight, I would take the PowerStage, a small modeler like the Quad Cortex or the Tone X1, go into 1 or 2 cabinets, maybe just 1 cabinet is enough, although 2 gives you those ping pong effects and delays and reverbs that can sound massive, by the way. Even when the speakers are stacked on top of each other, they can still sound much bigger than a regular amplifier. So I would take that, and that rig would be 1/4 of the weight of my analog rig and would give me the full flexibility and versatility of digital. So I'll finish up now by playing you this recording. You can let me know in the comments below what you think of this. I'm absolutely blown away. Thank you, Seymour Duncan. I'm going to stop by and see you again at NAMM 2025 to see what products you've got there, and I highly recommend you check these out. And if you're like me and you checked these out in the past and weren't sure, check them out again with this new generation of guitar gear, because the new stuff is just such high quality and these really let it shine through traditional amplifier cabinets. Thanks for watching, take care and be well. Roll VT.